There was this father that had triplet daughters that were ready to start dating. He really didn't want them to date, but his one rule was, if I meet him and I like him, I'll let you go. Well, it was one Friday evening, and it just so happened all three girls had a date. And it also just so happened that he was cleaning his shotgun. There was a knock at the door. He grabbed his gun. The guy says, "Hey, my name is Eddie. I'm looking for Betty, and we're going for spaghetti. Is she ready?" Kind of shakes his head, and he says, "Yep, she's ready. You can go ahead." Next time there was a knock at the door. He grabs his gun, opens the door. Guy says, "Hi, my name is Joe. I'm looking for Flo. We're going to the show. Is she ready to go?" Dad shakes his head, and he says, "Yeah, that's fine." The next time there's a knock at the door, Dad grabs his gun, opens the door. The kid says, "Hi, my name is Chuck," and Chuck is no longer with us. Little Johnny comes running downstairs just a-bawling. His mom says, "What happened?" He said, "Dad was hanging up some pictures and he put a nail in the wall and he hit his thumb with the hammer." Little Johnny's mom says, "That's nothing to cry about. You're a big boy. You should be laughing." He said, "I did. And that's when he hit me." Little Johnny says, "Dad, I don't want to go to school today." He said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, 2 weeks ago, the school chicken died and we had chicken sandwiches for lunch the very next day." He said, "Okay." He said, "And then a week later, the school pig died and we ended up having ham the next day." He says, "Okay, well, why don't you want to go today?" He said, "Well, yesterday my English teacher died. Dad, please don't make me go." Little Johnny was getting up there in age and went in for a physical, and Doc said, "Everything looks all right. I just need to get a semen sample from you." He says, "Take this cup home and bring it back tomorrow." Little Johnny goes and comes back the next day, and the cup is just as clean as it was the day before. Doc says, "What happened?" He says, "Well, I tried with my left hand, nothing. Tried with my right hand, nothing. Then I had little Susie try. She tried with her left and her right. Then her mouth, with her teeth in, teeth out, still nothing. So we called up Betty next door. She tried with her left hand and her right hand. She even squeezed it between her armpits and in between her knees. Still nothing." Doctor says, "Now let me get this straight. You called up your neighbor for help?" He said, "Yeah. And none of us could get the cap off." There was this little old man with a cane that got on the bus, and the bus was completely full, so there was no seats, and he had to stand. Well, the bus was whipping back and forth down the streets, and the man fell down right in front of little Johnny. Little Johnny looks at him and looks at his cane. He says, "If you put a little rubber cap on that tip of your cane," he says, "it'd be able to hold you up better." The man looks at him. He says, "Little boy, if your dad would have put a little rubber cap on the tip of his cane, I'd have a seat on this freaking bus." Little Johnny's friends always ask him the craziest questions because he always has the craziest answers. One day, little Billy said, "Hey, little Johnny, why is it that boys fart louder than girls?" Little Johnny says, "That's easy. It's because they got a microphone and 2 speakers." Little Johnny was a farmer, and one day he was out working on his tractor when the DNR showed up. Guy steps out of his truck. He says, "Little Johnny, I was given a tip that you've been poaching. Do you mind if I look around?" Well, Johnny says, "By all means, I haven't been poaching anything." He says, "Just as long as you don't go in that field over there." Guy pulls something out of his pocket. He says, "You see this? This is my fucking badge, and that means I can go anywhere I want." Johnny says, "Fine." And he goes back to working on his tractor. About 10 minutes later, little Johnny looks up. He sees that guy running as fast as he can through the field with this huge bull chasing after him. Little Johnny smiles. He runs over to the gate, stands up on it, and he says, "Show him your fucking badge!" One day, little Johnny goes into a bar and orders 3 pints of Bud Light. He takes all 3 glasses and brings them back over to the corner table, and he sits down and he drinks a sip out of each one of them until they're all gone. When he finishes all 3 beers, he brings the glasses up to the bar and says, "I'd like another round, please." Bartender says, "I couldn't help but notice the way you were drinking the beer over there." He says, "If you'd order one at a time, it'd be a lot more cold and a lot more fresh." Little Johnny says, "No, see, I've got 2 brothers. One's on the East Coast, one's on the West Coast, and we order beers like this every time we go out because we're separated and we can't sit down and enjoy a pint. So we've been doing this for the last 10 years. So little Johnny comes in for the next 2-3 weeks, and he orders the same way that he always did, and then one day he comes in and he only orders 2 pints of Bud Light. Bartender says, "Oh my gosh, what happened? Did one of your brothers die?" Little Johnny says, "No, they're still alive and well." Bartender says, "Okay, well, what happened?" Little Johnny says, my wife made me give up drinking, but my brothers, they still drink like fish. It was little Johnny and little Susie's wedding night, and they were about to consummate their marriage and have sex for the first time. Little Johnny's going all fast and crazy like, and she says, slow down, little Johnny. Sex is like an art. You need to take your time. He says, all right, well, if sex is like an art, you better get your canvas ready because I'm about to spill my paint. Little Johnny's teacher asked him, do you think that people can actually look at cards and be able to predict the future? Little Johnny says, yes, definitely. I know my mom can look at cards and predict the future. She says, how do you know that? She says, well, my mom can take one look at my report card and tell me exactly what my dad's going to do to me when he gets home. One day, little Johnny was out hunting in the woods, and this huge bear came up on him, and little Johnny shot and missed. He shot and missed every time until he ran out of bullets. So he didn't know what to do, so he just ran. He ran as fast as he could until he came to the edge of this cliff, and this bear was running at him, and he didn't know what to do. He was either going to fall to his death, or this bear was going to eat him. So he just got down on his knees, and he prayed. He said, dear God, please help this bear find religion. Help him find it to know you, God, so that he doesn't eat me. And then all of a sudden, the clouds just came, and it started to rain, and the bear just stopped. And he looked up at the sky, and he said, thank you, God, for this food that I'm about to eat. Just after little Susie had given birth to her first child, the nurse says, oh my gosh, what a beautiful little boy you have. Well, Johnny says, yeah, I bet you say that to all the parents with newborns. She says, no, I only say it when they have very good-looking babies. He says, well, yeah, well, what do you say when they've got an ugly one? She smiles and says, I say, oh, the baby looks just like you. One day, little Johnny's history teacher said, little Johnny, I think you cheated on your test. Little Johnny said, what? Prove it. She said, okay. The first question on the test was, who was the first president of the United States? And little Susie wrote, George Washington, and so did you. He said, well, everybody knows that. She said, but wait. Another question on the test was, which president was it that freed the slaves? And little Susie wrote Abraham Lincoln, and so did you. Little Johnny says, yeah, I read the history book last night, and that was in there. She said, but I have one last piece of evidence. The last question on the test was, which president was in office during the Louisiana Purchase? And little Susie put, I don't know, and you wrote, me neither. One day, little Johnny was sitting at the dinner table, sucking on his thumb after he got done eating. His mom said, little Johnny, if I told you once, I told you twice to quit sucking on your thumb. Now you go upstairs and go to bed. Little Johnny goes upstairs and goes to sleep. And about 5 hours later, his little brother wakes him up. He says, I had a bad dream. Little Johnny says, all right, I'll take you downstairs to Mom and Dad's bedroom. And so they go walking down there, and his little brother goes up to the doorway, and they start hearing some noises. And he looks in there and goes, oh, my gosh, what are they doing? So Johnny pushes his brother out of the way and looks in. He says, and I can't believe she had the nerve to send me to bed early for sucking my thumb after what she's doing. Little Johnny's in math class, and the teacher's writing some problems up on the board, and little Timmy starts laughing. She says, what are you laughing at? He says, I saw your bra strap. She goes, you get out of my classroom for a week. So he leaves, and she goes back to writing problems up on the board, and little Billy starts laughing. She says, all right, now what are you laughing at? He goes, I saw both your bra straps. She goes, you get out of my classroom for a month. Little Billy gets up and goes and slams the door and scares the teacher, and she drops the chalk, bends over and picks it up, and little Johnny just gets up and starts walking out the door. She says, all right, now, little Johnny, where do you think you're going? He said, well, Teach, after you dropped that chalk and bent over to pick it up, after what I saw, my school days are over. Right before lunch one day, the teacher says, okay, class, we're going to pray before our meal. And little Johnny is just sitting there and not knowing what to do. And teacher says, little Johnny, do you pray before your meals at home? No, sir. My mom's a very good cook, so we don't have to. Little Johnny's in college, and one night he has an after-bar party at his house. So he brings his friends in and he says, all right, this is my kitchen, this is my bedroom, this is my bathroom, and here is my living room. And in this living room, he had this big pot hanging on the wall with a hammer sitting next to it. His friend says, well, what's that? He says, oh, that's my talking clock. He says, talking clock? I've never heard of such a thing. Little Johnny says, oh, yeah? He picks up the hammer and he smacks it on the pot. From the other side of the wall, you hear, are you crazy? Do you have any idea what time it is? You know that it's 1:52 in the morning? Johnny smiles and says, see? Talking clock.